DJ, actually, well, we'll talk about it later on in the show, but today might be the actual. No, actually, we are going to do a Good Friday show. Never mind. I'm having conflicting thoughts going on in my head on a Thursday morning. So let's talk about it. The 4 pillars of achieving your true greatness, the mind, body, action, consistency pillars. That's the conversation today. Welcome to the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly. Every morning we got a race to see who says good morning first, and Jeff's the champion today by 6 seconds to Lisa, and then followed by a quick. So what are we?
3 seconds after Damon.
4 seconds after Damon. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Lisa. Good morning, Damon.
Y'all.
And we just got to say, so Joel with us today is coming from the West Coast. So Lisa, I know you're on the West Coast. Y'all, it's 6 a.m. there, and y'all are up doing what we need to do in order to be successful in life and business and in family. So thank you all for being here. West Coast, give Joel and Lisa a shout out again, everybody.
Joining us on the West Coast. Look, and he's ready to go. It's 6 a.m. over there, y'all.
you know, Dean was saying yesterday, we had Dean Crook on yesterday. He was saying he thought it was really awesome. He was at the TIA event last week, and he goes, and I actually had quite a few people come up to me saying, oh my God, I love you on Sales Chatter in the morning. And he was like, Dan, I was like blown away where Lisa wakes up every morning and does her yoga to Sales Chatter. So she's watching our show as she's doing her yoga. And he was like, that is so cool. He goes, and you know, it's kind of like what we were talking about off air, where it just becomes a piece of your life, right? And we got to have the things we do in life. They've got to become integrated in our lives, or else they become obstacles as opposed to opportunities, right? Joel, so much where we can start, but I guess the first part is, and this is more for me, for my education. So I'm being a little greedy here, everyone. You know, I find my energy is key, and when my mind and body are connected, and when I use my energy to the best of my ability, I'm finding more results. Can you start by sharing a little bit about kind of this mind body connection that we have to make in order to release our full self into the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So you talk about energy. You know, let me back up a second. So you just said like this mind-body connection. So one of the things I think is interesting is we always think of these things as separate. And the truth is we're one thing, right? It's a system, but we're one thing. Our mind and body, the mind-body connection is absolutely true. And when people are thinking about like whether health or fitness or even usually an energy, we start thinking about like our body. But the first thing that we should really be thinking about is our mind, because your mind is actually what controls the body. Mm-hmm. So I think it's interesting that how many years have we been talking about like, oh, I want to get healthier, and we just go right into, well, what's the exercise or what I'm going to eat?
That's so crazy, Dan. We just talked about this before we even went live. It's so nuts.
It was exactly, Joel, it's funny, before you jumped on, DJ and I were talking, we're like, you know, energy. I'm like, yeah, but it all starts here and it transitions to here, outward into action. That action creates the consistency that we want to go. There's your 4 pillars. It's kind of like that L, that inward and outward, but it all starts here. Like if we're looking to get healthy, a good part here is I'm going to stop eating donuts. Me personally, I have to say that because it's kind of like a magnet when I go through Tim Hortons, or when I even drive by a Dunkin' Donuts or Tim Hortons. It's like a magnet that just draws me in, and like the chocolate dip donut. And it's funny because my first question is, how thick is the chocolate on your chocolate dip donut? I'm like, I'm not kidding you. And my daughter worked at the local Tim Hortons here before she went off to school, and she's like, Dad, it is so embarrassing when you come through the drive-thru, because I'm like, I'll have the Timbits, and they're like, well, what kind do you want? I go, I want only the yummy sugary ones. That's all I want. She's like, it is so embarrassing, but it's I literally have to tell myself, you do not need jelly beans, you do not need donuts, Dan, you do not need the chocolate bars, you don't need it. Stop one more day without it. And it's like, and I know we talked about addiction the other day with Dooner. Yeah, I know it, Joel. I know it. So right here is where everything.
I have that love for food, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, DJ can speak to it. How much did you lose, DJ?
So 80, I think.
80 something pounds.
Wow.
So listen,
Yeah.
you got to love food to get where you were.
Oh, I love
There's
food.
got to be
I'm
so
gonna
many
tell you this,
conversations
I
going
love
on in your head when you're out somewhere to maintain that consistency that you're maintaining right now.
Yeah, it's your
And
mind.
sometimes it's not
I'm so
even.
glad you said that, Joel. It is your mind. But go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, no, I was just teeing off what you just said there, because sometimes it's not even that you really enjoy these foods. I mean, obviously we do, right? They taste awesome, right? But it's these habits that we kind of fall into, and there's sort of two systems that we're going to run off of. One is like this instant, like, and that's like you see that donut and you can taste it already, and before you know it, it's in your hand, or you're picking which one you're going to grab out of the box. The second system takes longer, and that's our thought process, using logistics to make a decision. I think it's like 95, it's probably higher than that, of our decision making in a day is from that first system. It's that instant. And you can imagine, like, we wouldn't be very efficient human beings or animals if we had to take these long processes for everything. So it's good, but what happens is that we have to train our mind, and so that's where habits and some like behavior change comes into play. So when you mentioned the pillars, and the way I think about this is, and so these are 5 pillars of fitness, right? So I mean, it could be pillars for anything, but my 5 pillars is mindset and emotion, and that kind of has to start. I think everything starts with your mindset, just like what we're just talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
And then second is, we do need to look at nutrition, right? There are certain things that are going to be better for us to be eating than others.
You can't do an
And there's like
all
lifestyle
bacon diet
situations.
and stay healthy.
No, though I've read that you maybe can. I've read that, but
If it was on Facebook, it's got to be true. I'm going on an all bacon diet.
And that was written by every bacon lover out there.
Well, how do you make any food better? Wrap it in bacon. Like, come
Yes,
on. Like,
yeah.
call it. I don't care if it's filet mignon. You wrap a filet mignon in bacon. It's really good.
Bacon's awesome. Bacon's good. Yeah.
Great. Sorry, Joel. Go on.
No. So, well, there's our lifestyle too, right? And so that's things like maybe sleep and maybe some like environment type things and social. So you have to have that as well. I don't think I mentioned exercise. So of course, right? And maybe it's more broader term I like to use as like movement. So exercise and movement.
I love that.
And then finally, that 5th pillar is the habits, which ties it all together.
Now, Dan said something so crucial when we were offline that I think I got to bring it up. But so obviously tying this stuff in, and then you wrote this great piece yesterday on LinkedIn about MED. So I want you to talk a little bit about that and the strategy behind that. But Dan said, we were talking about sleep, talking about this, and talking about the gym. And he said, if it feels like an obstacle, we're not going to do it. And I think that's so true. If it's so hard to every time and we feel like we have to keep forcing ourselves, like eventually you're going to just stop.
Well, as soon as that obstacle, so it becomes an obstacle, right? It becomes a chore instead of a tool to help you do more, be more, and achieve more. And as soon as that chore, as soon as that desire to stay comfortable either in bed or you're looking outside and it's a snowstorm, you're like, I don't want to drive. As soon as that obstacle overweighs what you're trying to do, it always fails. Always. I mean, this is the whole. This goes back to the root from back to Napoleon Hill at the beginning of 1903 when he said, like, our desire, our ambition, our drive needs to be bigger than the obstacles. When the obstacles are bigger than any desire or drive, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, you will stop. Now, call it quit, call it failure, call it whatever you want, whatever the verbiage is you want to use to make yourself feel better. But it's what we are going to do. And we were talking about sleep, and it's like, well, so Joel, it's funny because DJ and I were off air. We're talking about rationing lies to ourselves in our head that make things sound so much better than they actually are. And and then you come out and the first thing you say is, well, it starts with the mind. It's like, what I mean? It's like everything just kind of lands there. But one of the things that you said that I think is critical is turning all of this into a habit. Because when we turn into a habit, we turn it over to our subconscious, which doesn't have barriers. You just do it. And that's when the gym, that's when the exercise or the movement becomes like, I know for me, I'm not at this point going to the gym because I did for years every morning, 5 a.m. dedicated. Had a few hip issues where my hip seized, so I stopped going. So I was like, well, it's pretty nice to sleep in an extra half hour, and then all this adds up. But I know I won't be consistent with it, so I won't do it. So what am I doing? I'm like you said, I'm putting motion in front of it. So I never take an elevator. Everything I can carry, I carry. I make sure if I can carry it, I'll carry 1 or 2 instead of 3 or 4 because it gives me more trips. I make sure I go walking with the dogs. I make sure I move to keep myself healthy. I come in the morning, I do some push-ups, I do some sit-ups, I do some pull-ups, just easy stuff and I think that's getting to the MEDs that DJ was talking about. And I think for all of us, if that works for us, go for it.
Absolutely.
Yep. You hit the nail on the head. And look, you didn't start off by doing all of those things either. I would guess, right? You didn't say, all right, here's my plan is I'm going to take grocery bags one at a time. I'm going to do push-ups. You didn't do it that way. You're adding on little things until they become, so the first time you did that, you opened it up, you probably started getting ready to grab your big bags, right? Because you're not a man unless you can get the whole grocery load
and curl them as you go up to the door.
Exactly. Right? You're like, no, I'm going to do one at a time.
Right.
So you grab the one bag, you take it in, you come back. And then the next time you might have started again and you go, oh, no. And I do it this way. Mm-hmm. And by I don't know, maybe it's like 3rd, 4th time or whatever, you just know, no, this is what I do. And I just grab the one bag and right. Mm-hmm. And then you've kind of got that down and you're like, well, what else is there? Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to the grocery store. I'm just going to park further away. And maybe that's at first not instinctual. You start looking for those spots right in the front.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, no, I don't need to do that. Mm-hmm. There's all the spots I need are way back here.
Mm-hmm. And nobody's going to ding your car. It's perfect.
Yeah, bonus.
No one's dinging your car.
Except when it's pouring rain or a snowstorm, it sucks to park all the way back there, but you still do it, right? Yeah.
You don't have to wait and make sure no one's behind you when you're pulling out because no one's ever back there, right?
No one's ever there. It's perfect. Yeah. And then have you ever done that? And then you come out and there's all this space and somebody's parked right beside you.
Right next to you.
Dude, are you kidding me? There's like 19 spots on each side here and you park right beside me. And then you're looking at your door. You're like, did he ding my door?
What happened in your life that you were so cruel?
I know. It's like, why would you do that? It's kind of like that. There's a commercial out there. I think it's for
I almost feel like people mess with people. I almost feel like there's somewhere out there that there's a website or something that says, look, if you see a car parked over there, you just park right next to it. Don't do anything to it, but get real close and mess with them.
Just park getting out.
yeah, exactly. He's like, I'm going to mess with this mofo. We'll get to a couple of comments. Jeff says, I'm pumped and highly energized, starting my day off with Hardwell into the unknown. This happens every day in sales and logistics, and I welcome it. And you know what, Jeff? Yes, sir. I've always said, if this is our energy meter and we start where we're redlining, like we're almost about to break the floor, then as we get like all these little chips in the day, losing a customer, and then by the end of the day, if you can end here, you're golden, man. But if you start here and you end here, then you just want to I guess those days. And love your thoughts on this, gentlemen, because those days, are those the days where you feel like you've been beaten with a million sticks and you've got nothing done, right? Like this is like, how many times have we left the office feeling like that? Like I felt like I was so busy, but I felt like I accomplished this much. You ever feel that?
For sure, man. And
much.
Look,
sometimes.
I forgot what was his name that had that comment. Jeff. What he's talking about though is the way you start your day. Mm-hmm. So the way you start your day is like incredible. It's one of the first things I enjoy actually working with my clients, and then we'll start planting seeds. I start planting seeds right off the bat. It's like, what do you do in the morning? And then we use these little small changes. How can we make it better? And the first thing is I want to do something that disrupts the morning pattern, because most of us will wake up, how do I feel? And that just sets the tone for the rest of your day, right? And so we want to disrupt that because we want to set what that tone is for the day, not just have it on automatic.
Do you
If we're
like
on
Ed
automatic,
Foreman?
we don't make moves. What's that?
Have you ever heard of Ed Foreman?
No.
So Ed Foreman came into the personal development world pretty much at the same time Zig Ziglar did, and they're both from Texas. So they both got that Texas slang. Ed Foreman used to say, when you wake up, he goes, you sit up at the end of your bed, he goes, I'm alive, I'm alert, and I feel great. And he says, you say that 10 times to yourself before you get out of bed. He goes, you come out of bed with like sparks flying out your butt. He goes, you
Yeah, my wife
come
would
into
be
the
pissed,
world.
though.
Yeah. And so it's, my old business partner and I, he had the Ed Foreman tapes. He's like, dude, he got me a copy. He's like, you got to listen to this. And and he was like, Ed Foreman is classic. And DJ, I actually have all of Ed Foreman stuff, DJ. I'll send it to you. And
Please.
I'm gonna look it up.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'll send it to you too, Joel. It is awesome. Like he's a Zig Ziglar, and Zig Ziglar is probably one of the best motivators on the planet when it comes to just that energy and all that, right? I mean, you look at Zig, well into his 80s, the guy's running 10 miles a day. Like he was a monster when it came to that, right? But that vitality, that mind, body, spirit is where he really started to go later in his career, right?
Yes.
Sales in the first part, but if you look at the transition of his message towards the later part of his career, it's a mind-body connection that creates the sales that helps people do what they do. And one of his big messages was deliver your energy to other people, like build people up. When you start a conversation with somebody, when you end the conversation, make sure they're up here if they started here, whatever level that is. It could be up here to here, you know what I mean? Like whatever that is. Love that. Sorry, just had to add that.
I love that too.
Ryan says something good here. I think this topic, it is a great topic, as in a new year, everyone says they're going to go to the gym and they taper off. And even now, you're going to find, hey, DJ, you've been in the sales game a long time. Towards the summer, salespeople start tapering off. Golf weather, can't get a hold of anybody. It's this excuse, it's that excuse. Instead of doubling down because everybody else is on the golf course, you double down, you're gonna triple and quadruple your results.
Yes.
Yeah, I think people get into that first quarter thing, right? They're like, oh, I'm gonna beat my last quarter or beat last year's first quarter, and then so there's a lot of hard work that's usually put in, and then we start to wane going into the second quarter.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Joel,
and
now
maybe
you
we're
said
thinking of
something.
swimsuits.
So I want to go back to something you mentioned because I really, the more I'm listening to the certain people I'm listening to and hearing patterns and just interrupting patterns, you mentioned interrupting patterns. And I think that is so crucial because I think in life that we do just constantly, I mean, life is just a pattern. Dan, I think you've said it a few times. I mean, it's just zeros and ones in the end. And so, we really are just a pattern. So interrupting those patterns, especially those patterns that you want to get rid of, they're not helping you.
I watched a psychologist the other day, and she was saying that one of the big things that nobody's putting any attention to that COVID did was disrupt people's patterns and routines. She says, and as much as you think, dogs are creatures of habit, we are the biggest creatures of habit. And it's, and if you start looking at what you do, and even if it's called the gym, right? I remember when I was going to the gym, it would piss me off to no end when I would walk in at 5:30 in the morning on January 2nd and there was somebody on my treadmill. Now, that's not my treadmill, but my habit is to go to that treadmill. I love that corner. the TV's right there. I listen to my podcast. I can like, it's just, that's kind of my habit.
That was my spot, man.
Yeah, thank you, Joel. Like, what the hell do you think you're doing trying to get healthy in my spot? Go to another one.
But, and you feel that inside, right?
Exactly. and it was very interesting because like all through COVID, and I'm in Ontario, so we were locked down. I personally think more than any place in North America, probably somebody in Quebec would say the same thing. I mean, they had a curfew at nighttime, like at 10 o'clock at night, you had to be in your, you had to be in your house. Like it was insane. So we felt that. And I never once put that or associated that with my habits and routine. It was more, I can't get together with my friends, but that's a habit and routine. Like if you notice the pattern of even with your friends, my wife and I sat down and we started looking at it. We're like, gosh, every 2 weeks we see that person or that couple. Every 3 weeks we see that couple. And then every 6 weeks or every 9 weeks, the couple, we're together with the couples. right? It's like, and you look, and your life is a series of patterns and habits, like everything we do. And so, if we consciously are aware of that, now we have like G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle. Now we know that. Now we know where to start up here to change it.
Yeah, and a lot of what you're talking about here is environment. So this is a powerful thing. I think a lot of times when we're thinking about change or even how can I perform better, we internalize it into like, what can I do, right? But another way to look at it is, what can I change outside of me? And sometimes that's actually easier to do, right?
Yes.
So what I mean by that is, like, oh, here's just a good example. So one of my clients lived in New York, and so they were walking a lot, right? Because you got to walk to the subway, you get off, you got to walk 3 blocks from your stop where you need to go. So it's just ingrained into your life is a lot of walking, just a lot of movement all day. He moved, I'm trying to think, like Vermont or something. And now he's in a place where, well, he has to drive everywhere. Walking's just not conducive. And what happened is he started gaining a lot of weight, and he's like, what the heck's going on? I'm eating the same. I'm doing everything the same. It's like, well, your environment is different. And so he's got to like purposely try to figure out, how can I get movement in? So obviously, like, we can't just pack up and move, right? Necessarily, and change our environment, but there are small things that you can do. This is just a good story too, if you don't mind. So there was another client who he would get off work and he would go sit in his big lazy boy and have a bourbon, right? And he wanted to do some exercise when he got home, and he wanted to do stuff, but he found himself constantly like, I'm in my lazy boy with my bourbon. And he started calling it, that's your bourbon chair. We got to get rid of that chair. And that's what we did. We removed the chair and removed the problem. Disrupted it, changed the environment. You can do that with your food, right? You don't want to eat a bunch of crap. Don't buy a bunch of crap and put it in your house. It makes it too damn easy.
And here's the thing: when you're in that grocery store, be consciously aware that you're going to buy that crap subconsciously if you're not aware of it, and that's where the triggers come in. Right? Brendan Burchard talked about it. He says, like you want to create a habit, you got to create triggers in order to create that habit. So every time you walk into a grocery store and you consciously say to yourself, I am not going to buy the crap, because you'll find yourself, and most of you have probably seen this, you're walking, you just automatically grab it. Like it's an automatic, you don't even think about it. You just, and all of a sudden there's a box of chocolate covered dip granola bars in there. And then, you got to have the cookies with the red cream in the middle. Really
man, it's primal too, right? So I'm sure back in the day, we knew what trees grew the certain fruits. And so we would just get up and we would just walk there. Now we know exactly, we walk into that grocery store, you know exactly where double stuffed Oreos are and the ice cream is at, right? You know exactly where it's at. And it's that pattern recognition.
You sure do.
So we got system one.
Jeff. So Jeff says, tapering off. Some of my best deals happen on the golf course. Come on, Dan. You know this is true. Brother, I do. I kind of sometimes say shit, and then I'm not thinking through it. Okay, so yeah, I get it. Some things have happened, but okay. So Jeff, I love you, brother. But how many times and maybe not you, because I know you're a high performer, I can tell you I've seen millions of salespeople just go golfing because it's a beautiful day. No business purpose behind it, right? And
perfect.
If we only have so many hours in a day for business, and we have a goal and we haven't achieved that goal, then maybe golf's not the smartest thing to go with buddies. It was like a buddy of mine once said to me, I'll never go to lunch unless it's productive. I've got a mission to accomplish. If a customer wants to go for lunch, perfect. Otherwise, I'm doing what I want to do. And I adopted that philosophy later in my career, where I didn't have lunch with
I had a manager say the same thing. Yeah, they would only go to lunch if it was with a customer, or they'd just eat at their desk,
or somebody that would push your success, your life, your career forward.
Yeah.
So like a mentor or a coach or something. Yeah. A colleague where you can talk about brainstorming new strategies and ideas. And same thing, I'd either eat at my desk reading, or I would go to lunch with somebody. And here's the reason is I don't want I mean, again, not to be a robot, but if you have a goal here and you're here, everything you do should be to achieve that goal. So stop sitting at the water cooler and talking for 45 minutes about your day to people that, sorry, but are not going to be a huge part of your life in the future. Call a spade a spade. I lived it. I had all of my friends were at the office that I was at, and I thought I had a bunch of friends. I changed and moved to Ontario, and I didn't have a single friggin' call for 9 months. Like that quick, that fast. So I've lived it, and maybe I'm a little bit distorted on it, gentlemen, but it's a fact. So, and even Grant Cardone in 10X, in his book 10X, he says, like, I'm sitting there watching the game on the weekend, and a buddy calls me, he says, hey, you watching the game? And to me, I think it's a little excessive because it's a weekend, but it's true, where he says, well, no, you're watching the game, and his buddy says, yeah, he goes, don't you need to raise 10 grand? He goes, yeah. He goes, where are you at? He goes, I'm at 2. He goes, so why are you watching the game? Raise your 10 grand. He goes, and actually, you don't need 10, you need 100 grand. Raise the money, then sit down and watch the game. So there's that argument. I guess there's that perspective, I guess is probably a better word, isn't it, gentlemen, than argument? But
I totally agree with this, but I'm also going to throw a little counter to it a bit.
Yeah, buddy. So, right on. Let's go.
So, and the reason is this is, look, I think a lot of people who are high performers will lean that direction anyways. At least that's what I found. And so what I find that some of the work that I have to help people with is I want them to go golfing. I want them to do some things that change the mind process. So, and let me explain that a little bit. Mm-hmm. So if we are constantly trying to make decisions, we're trying to learn new stuff, we're kind of in this sort of active mode. Okay, we'll call it that. We also need time for recovery. So not just physical recovery, but mental recovery. And the important thing with this too, that I think gets missed is, well, let me just put it this way. Have you ever had like some of your best ideas come from like you're in the shower or you're driving?
Oh yeah.
So the reason for that is that you're doing a mental and physical task that is all sort of automated. And so your mind, parts of your brain are preoccupied in the background doing this stuff that you don't have to think about, which opens up a different piece of your brain, which is like allows for flow to happen. And this is where creativity happens. And that's why, so I've had, like, there was which writer was this? I think it's the guy who wrote the Da Vinci Code. He would get like writer's block. And so what he would do is he would drive home and take a shower. That was what he would do. Mm-hmm. And he found that when he would drive, he'd either get new ideas or know what to do, either when he was driving or in the shower. And then he would drive back to work again. And then he would get back and he would start writing again. And that's how he got over writer's block. But we can do the same thing with, maybe it's golf. We're doing golf where we've got our mind thinking about certain things and then like ideas pop into our head. Problems get solved. So we solve a lot of these big problems, or we have these great creative ideas during those types of activity. So we want to do those activity that increase that kind of creative flow. And the more you do that, you actually find that you're able to do that when you're doing tasks that aren't that flowy. So now when I am writing something or I'm working on something like that, I'm able to get into that space because I've exercised it. I've trained it.
Mm-hmm. I love that, Joel. And as you say it, that's reading for me.
Yes.
But I could see if that's golf for somebody, I can see that being a very big positive. A very big positive. I look at golf as the kind of sport where you need a minimum of 5 hours in order to make it happen, because you can't trunk slam. You got to go in and have a beer or something. You got to go in and you can't just trunk slam and be gone on a golf, right? Especially if you're golfing with somebody. But it's I love that perspective. That is so true.
Yes. No, I love it too. Let's share some of these other comments.
Yeah, sorry. So we got Lisa, replace the bad habits with good. Little tweaks lead to massive results. 100%. Positive habits beget success in all aspects of life. 1000%, Kenneth.
You know it.
Everything in moderation. Yes. And Nigel, you're absolutely right. The challenge is when you don't have a trigger for moderation, you got to be very careful, because when it comes to food, I don't. But when I stopped drinking, I replaced wine for tea. It was real hard at first, but built a new habit of boiling water every day and became automatic.
That's
100%.
awesome, Lisa.
100%,
love
Lisa.
it.
That is amazing. Here it comes, Dan. Boom. Yes, sir,
There
Jeff.
it is.
Yeah, you're awesome, brother. When I'm at the gym, I have the creative thoughts. Yeah, Kenneth, so true. Like
Yep.
even just on the treadmill, or just
Oh
like
yeah, your brain just
straining
gets
your
going.
body, and the gym is a great place for it. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Maggie says Joel is great. He reminds me of Mind and Body Mark. Yeah.
I love it.
I don't know who that is, but he's probably pretty awesome. I would.
He's probably a pretty awesome guy.
He's gotta be. He's gotta
He's got to be an awesome dude if he reminds Maggie of you. That's for sure. All right, DJ, what do we got here, brother?
Yeah. Hey. Well. Thank you, Joel, for joining us from the West Coast. Obviously, we are so thankful for you waking up. You guys want to reach out to Joel and have him help you with your mind and body? Obviously, reach out to Joel. American Logistics, thank you guys so much. And Centurion Trucking, Damon, and all you guys. People.
We got a lot of people from the West Coast here today, DJ.
That is, what's that?
We got a lot of people from the West Coast here today.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
He brought the West Coast with him, so thank you. We're gonna have to have you back on again. Maybe get them motivated. Hey, look, he's on. It's 6 a.m. 6 a.m. Come on on. Again, if you are on the West Coast, you're catching this later, we do have a replay. We replay it 12 o'clock Eastern and 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you don't want to wake up early, you can wake up at 9 and see us then.
But wake up early because we're live right now.
That's right. That's right.
And if you're watching this in the replay, we're not live.
If you want to start your day right with us, start it every day, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m., 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to take you out with a little lesson, I guess, because it's kind of a quote, but not really. So if you fail, never give up, because FAIE or FAIL means first attempt in learning. And is not the end. In fact, END means effort never dies. If you get no as an answer, remember, NO means next opportunity. Put them together. First opportunity in learning, effort never dies, next opportunity. Change your mindset, change your life. There you go.
Welcome to the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education week